Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Hello. My name is Dave Wilber, and my friends call me the Turfgrass Zealot, and you are at the Turfgrass Zealot Project. Hello. We're doing it live. I'm doing it live today. How are you? Yeah, I like this. I like it a lot. All right, we're going to get right to it today. Well, thought I'd yammer a little bit to see if some people were going to make it into the chat here. A couple of house cleaning things, but you're welcome to use the chat, and I wish you would. Feel free to type anything you want. Somebody said to me the other day, well, if I do that, I'll give away my real self. And I'm like, well, then get another account. You know, why not? Why not? Why not? All right. Well, as always, what I want to do here with these Saturday morning live feeds is I want to talk some truth. I want to have a real, honest, and open discussion. Again, my name is Dave Wilber, and as an agronomic advisor, consulting agronomist, mental health advocate, all those sorts of things, I spend my time thinking about the turfgrass industry and thinking about golf turf and sports turf. And I spend a lot of time thinking about the environment. I spend a lot of time thinking about the clients and the wonderful people that I get to interact with. These things are all awesome. Today I'm speaking to I think I'm speaking more to those of you that are younger in the business or that are thinking about being in business, but I think I'm speaking to everybody. Honestly, I think I'm speaking to everybody when I say that the world does not need another turfgrass expert. That's the title of today's talk. The world does not need another turfgrass expert. And I'm sure that this title, as designed, is probably already giving you some kind of emotion. Good. I want that. I want you to think about that for just a second. See, here's the thing. I get a lot of young people in our business talking to me, asking me, what do I do? What do I do? Let's turn the music down here a little bit so we can be serious. I love music. I'm glad it's here. So as I look at what we need, at what you need, when people say, hey, what do I got to do to be successful? I'm like, well, there's a lot. There's a lot. And it doesn't just have to do with being successful in turfgrass. And there it is. There's why I want to talk to you today. Because the success in the business of maintaining a sporting surface, okay, because I'm not just talking about golf here. I'm talking about sports turf, talking about all kinds of different sports turf. We watched the Kentucky Derby last week, and it was good. So here's the thing, all right? And I started to write a whole, it was like more of a blog post kind of script, and I thought, this time, what I'll do is I'll read, right? I'll read my writing, and for those of you that are just getting to know me, I've written a lot in our business, and I love to write. I enjoy that bit of communication, but I don't want to handle this way today. I really don't. I want to speak from my heart. I don't want to sit here and read a script. So let's talk about the beginning of most everybody's career in our business. One way or another, the work comes to you, and you come to the work. You come to it based on, I don't know, maybe you just happen to think, hey, this would be a cool summer job. Golf course in your hometown, sports facility in your hometown, that kind of thing, right? And you say, well, this is pretty cool. A lot of people come to greenkeeping by virtue of wanting to be golfers or wanting to be players, and say, this is great. Like, I can have the summer job. And immediately they get hooked on it, right? It becomes an obsession. Well, not an obsession, but it's like, well, this is pretty cool. And likely you're going to be working for a golf course superintendent, somebody like that, who has committed themselves to working on and working in the profession, working on the golf course, working in the profession, I should say. And so there's a little bit of mentorship that goes on there. For me, when I first started working on the golf course, Mike Kozak, whom you've heard me speak about before, was, he was a great mentor to me. He was just a great human being. Still is a great human being. I don't know, was. Why am I saying was? Mike is still a friend. He's still a mentor. And, that was, 1982. So many years ago. I still love the guy. I really do. And I love the fact that he opened my eyes to the business, but like most people and like most golf course superintendents, it's like, hey, if you really want to be serious about this, you got to go to turf school, right? Some kind of Turfgrass program, 2-year, 4-year, whatever it may be. And that was certainly Mike's advice. And it is the advice that I have given many others through the year, find the college that fits you and where should I go? Right? Young turfies will ask me, where should I go? And there's a lot of questions about that. And that's a whole nother podcast. But anyway, they eventually, they end up getting some kind of education. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people work themselves, right through the business, which is fine and still very acceptable. This is still a vocational kind of thing, right? It really is. I'm disappointed. One of the big things that I'm most disappointed in the GCSAA for is not embracing the fact that turfgrass and greenkeeping is a vocation. I see it differently in other parts of the world. I really love the fact that, in the UK, that you can really choose, hey, I want to get a greenkeeping education. I want to become a golf course superintendent, these sorts of things. But the two things can split, right? The vocation of greenkeeping is a very, very acceptable profession. And most of us fall in love with the business because we love greenkeeping, right? We love being outdoors. We love growing grass. We love the smell of the whole. It all works. It works for a certain personality type. And I love that. Right? So cool. Somewhere along the way, we have let the situation get derailed. And I'm speaking mostly to Americans here, I think, and possibly Canadians, I don't know. But hey, you've got to be an expert. You got to be a turfgrass expert before you can do this job. And I was with that. Okay? I mean, I'm a product of that. I did the 2-year thing, then I went to Colorado State, working on the 4-year thing. This is how it worked, right? And I was working, right away. And I had a superintendent's job very early. In fact, I wasn't done with college when I had my first super's job. Just kind of worked out that way. So much movement in the business back then, in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. So the whole thing hooked me, right? In the beginning, it was, I loved the work. I love being outdoors. I was loving golf. A lot of people, like I say, come to it because they love golf, but I picked up the sport and I enjoyed that very much. And the whole thing kind of worked for me. I had a mentor in my golf course superintendent. Let's go. Right? I'm going to get an education and it's all going to be good. All right, let's talk about the education part of it. And I'm sorry, I do not want to offend any of our education friends. I am wholly and completely in love with you all, and I realize that you all have a job to do, and I get it. And hey, you want to go, you want to study, you want to put your mind to it. Hey, let's, this is woody plants class. I remember my woody plants class in college. And I'm gonna put my head to it, right? I'm gonna do the botany classes, the biology classes, the chemistry classes. One of my favorite classes early on was agricultural math. It seems easy, but it's like, I didn't really know the per acre calculations and all that sort of stuff. It was great, right? And it was an ag-oriented school, so the people around me were, they were going to be farmers. They were going to be, they were going to be field scouts. They were going to be some way involved in ag, and so agriculture-oriented thing. I took an ag journalism class. It was my first foray into writing and being a writer. I wrote a little bit in high school. I wrote a little bit, I did the school paper thing and all that sort of stuff. And I think some of you have heard my story. As it turns out, I'm dyslexic. And I had a teacher or two who knew that or somehow figured it out and helped me through that. But it didn't stop my creative mind, so I had to work a lot harder at it than most people. But there's a difference between writing and reading, and I'm gonna sit down and read a textbook. That just ruined me. But I could sit and write. Nobody could read my handwriting, but thank God for word processing, which was just coming online, when I was going to college. So at any rate, college was great, right? I mean, all those sorts of things. And as I've talked to many of you who have gone to Turfgrass programs all over the world, you have a very similar experience. Hey, this is good. I'm learning. I'm digging in. I'm all about it. I'm surrounded by turfies. We're going to talk about turf. There's a turf club. There's stuff going on, right? And that's great. So now it comes time to do internships. Now it comes time to figure out how you're going to, and maybe some of you're going to go back to that first golf course that that first sports facility that you worked at. You're going to go back there. And now you've got the newfound, I'm smart. I had Woody Plants class and I can do this, right? And I'm going to come and now I want to learn about diseases and I want to learn about different grasses and I want to learn all this sort of stuff. And now I'm going to be out in the field and I'm going to be doing it and I'm going to be smart. And the golf course superintendent looks at you and says, grab a weed eater. And I'm not going to lie, when that happened to me, I was like, or hop on that mower. Because see, the work still has to happen, right? That golf course superintendent, that sports turf person or whatever, they've got to take care of that facility. And you're a crew member, you're a staff member. And sure, you're gonna win the world because you're a turfgrass, wannabe turfgrass expert. Let's call it that. Well, guess what, you? Grab a fucking weed eater. Right? Get on that tractor. And yeah, sure, you're gonna advance. Pretty soon, okay, I'm gonna get to learn to load the sprayer. I'm gonna get to do some of those things that are a little closer to the technical end of things. That's great, right? That's fantastic. So you go back now after you've done that from an internship or whatever. You're back to college, and it's like, okay, there's some reality, and there's also, well, I've got classes to take, I've got more to do, I've got to, I want to get my degree, I want to get out there, I want to do what I want to do. I have big plans. Our university people, they want you to be motivated by those big plans. Hey, sure, I've got contacts. Says the Turfgrass professor, we'll get you that great internship at that great club or that great thing, or that interview or whatever it may be. Yes, that's their job, and that's good. As advisors and mentors and all those sorts of things, it's expected, right? Here's the problem that I see right now. We can't tell people that our business isn't about the work. It isn't about the struggle. It isn't about the hard stuff. And one thing for sure, if you don't remember anything else that Dave Wilber says this morning, says on this livecast, says as you're watching this YouTube video, this business is so much about people. It is 1,000% more about people than it is about turfgrass. 1,000%. That's a lot of percentages. I have visited thousands of golf courses all over the world. I have talked with golf course superintendents from places where there's absolutely no budget to the highest budgets you could imagine. I've been part of construction projects, for the things that you read about in the magazines, whatever, right? It's just been my thing. I've been really fortunate. I've worked my ass off. I've sacrificed big time. I was a golf course superintendent for 7 years. I loved it. I still think about, how good that was. And I want to tell you that I still believe in the business. I believe in it very much, but I think part of it is right now we're selling a pretty big lie. Oh, hey, lie. That's a big word. Listen, and listen carefully, okay? This business is not just all about turf grass. Yes, we got to know about grass. We do. We got to know about turf, and that's awesome, right? Like, yes, learn about grass. It's awesome. But there's so much more to learn about. Let's look at the actual job. The first thing that's going to happen to you just about every day as a golf course superintendent, as a sports turf manager or whatever, and maybe this changes a little bit depending on where you are and who's working for you and all that sort of stuff. But let's talk about being an assistant, a superintendent, and all that sort of stuff. Is you're gonna open the doors in the morning, and just after you, a crew of people are going to come in. They are going to be working for you, and they're going to be getting the job done, right? You can't do it all by yourself. There may be 4 or 5 of them. There may be 45 of them. But these are your people, right? This is the resource that you're now set to manage. Resource. A great word, isn't it? And so this resource is there, and there they are, and they're people, and they're humans, and they have issues, they have stuff, they have abilities, they have disabilities, whatever it may be, right? This is it family? Not really, but it's kind of like that. At least it was, in my operation. My family, my guys, I'm gonna say guys, I had women on my crews at various times. So when I say guys, I'm just talking my people. I hate saying even my people. The crew, the staff, right? Because they weren't mine. I didn't own them. This isn't what that looked like. The staff at my place, well, there were 3 different languages that got spoken in my shop. English, Spanish, and Tagalog. I had 2 Filipino staff members for a little bit. There were cultural things going on. There were people who, were educated and were kind of semi-retired, and there were people that had no education at all. One of my guys dropped out of school in 7th grade because his family needed him to work in their family business. And he was fantastic, by the way. One of the coolest people, one of the smartest people I've ever met. Smart, right? Like full on street smart, and could do anything with his hands. Made beautiful signs, beautiful woodworker, all those sorts of things. So here's the thing, right? Resource. I go back to that word resource. You have a resource to manage in your staff. Now, you think back to turf school, and I'm going to think back to my education and for the education of most people. Well, I didn't get a human resource management class in college. I didn't, that wasn't on the list, right? I did botany, I did woody plants, I did turf grass this, turf grass that. No, man, I didn't do a human resource thing. I didn't know what the labor laws were. I didn't understand psychology. I didn't take any psychology classes. I didn't know what motivated people. I didn't understand anything about things like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, any of those sorts of things. But yet, here's my resource to manage. I don't know anything about it. What I know about is I know about the job. I know I've got to get people together. I've got to get out on the golf course. We've got to produce a product. This is how it goes. And we did it, right? It wasn't always pretty, but we did it. The more we did it, the better we got at it. The more I did it, the better I got at it. The more I realized what hill to die on and what not to die on. I was by no means an expert in psychology and human resource management, and yet that was the biggest thing that was in front of me. And then the next thing, okay? And whether you're in a public situation or a private situation or whatever, you're going to be dealing with bosses, committees, golf pros, tennis pros, I don't know. You know, every situation is different, right? But you suddenly are thrown into situations where you've got to exist in a team atmosphere in some way or another. I'll tell you one bit that I was completely ill prepared for is the first time I had to do a contract for my employment. And later somebody gave me advice and said, you know, hey, you should let a labor attorney look at that. It's worth the $300-400, you know. But the first time that somebody slid a contract in front of me, I mean, I'd never seen an employment contract. You know, and the club's drawing it up, right? I'm not drawing it up. And we've since learned that there's some ways to that. But again, I didn't have any human resource negotiating employment contract experience whatsoever. They slid this thing in front of me. They said, this is what your contract looks like. And it was filled with a lot of words. It was filled with, and I'm a smart guy, right? You know, my IQ is fine. And I'm reading this thing and I'm going, okay, yeah, you're telling me this, you're telling me that. Okay. You know, we get, you know, your sole thing has to be the golf course. Yeah, that's fine. I work a zillion hours. So, you know, it all fit. Right. And then, you know, what happened with me is board changes, and suddenly they want to review that contract and they want to look at it and they want to see things a different way. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you know, we signed right here. And I'm like, yeah, but we want to review. Well, you know, that little clause, that little paragraph in the contract that said review, that said that they could review it anytime they wanted, you know. And it wasn't anybody was trying to screw me. It was just, you know, they had this thing where they're, okay, we've changed boards. We got a new finance people, whatever, we're going to do it. And I talked to you about, you know, in my last podcast about Hal, right? And he was part of that. And he was always wanting to review stuff, right? So here's the actual job, right? I mean, you're here at the actual job, your resources, your staff, the people around you, people. And the next thing is you're the finance manager in some way, or at least you're buying, making capital purchasing equipment thing, you know, decisions, trying to figure out long-term how this is going to go, possibly looking into contracts with contractors or subcontractors, you know, those sorts of things. One of my first experiences as a young superintendent is that the club had contracted with a concrete guy to do a bunch of work over the years. And this guy came and said, hey, I'm supposed to do this, that, and the other, you know, from the previous superintendent. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool, but we may change that up a little bit, you know, because there's some stuff I see and there's no question we need to do some concrete work, but I think we want to do things a little differently. And he was like, no, my contract is right here. See, it says right here, this many square feet, this much a square foot, or this many linear feet, this much a linear foot, you know, whatever it is. And I'm like, well, we don't want to pay you less. That's not the point, but I want to do some different things. No, here's my contract. You know, here's the bid I did. The bid says, you know, do the concrete around the restrooms. I said, well, we don't want to do the concrete around the restroom. We want to do the concrete near the clubhouse, right? Well, that's going to be different. We got to do a different contract. See, and I'm like, okay. So we got to navigate that. We got to figure that out. That's the job. That's the job, right? You know, same thing. I had to work with a pump company to get some pumps replaced. And, you know, we got negotiation around all that. And I didn't have any negotiating classes in college. Nobody taught me anything about negotiating. They just said, hey, you know, go be golf course superintendent. Hey, you know everything we know how to tell you about Kentucky bluegrass. You get where I'm going with this? The actual job is so much more things. So do you need to be a turfgrass expert to do this job? Well, sure. I think having some turf expertise is great. You got to be there. It's the language that we speak. But what about all these other things? And this is where I think the business is letting us down, right? Because some people are just not wired for that, and they never will be. And that's okay. Those people, there are places and positions for them in our business. And I've spoken about this before. I want people to succeed in the ways that they can succeed. And some people are never going to be golf course superintendents. Some people are talented mechanics, equipment managers, right? And we want to take good care of those people. We want to pay them well. We want to make sure that they're doing fine. But somehow we have got a skill gap and we have a wage gap. And I'm telling you, it's hurting us. It's hurting us in our business. And again, I've talked about the no bullshit truth of being an assistant superintendent and how all this works. And I'm concerned. I'm super concerned. One, people are having a hard time finding labor. Bunch of phone calls in the last 30 days about people scrambling to find labor. How are we going to do this? How are we going to navigate the whole thing? COVID just makes it a little bit worse. And on top of all that, then it's, I need some skilled labor. I need people that understand. I need people that know how to speak our language, right? Whether they've been to school or whether they've just got the deep experience or whatever. And I need people who can, turn a wrench a certain way and where, at what motorcycle shop. We've always looked for mechanics at motorcycle shops and things like that, right? And I think about Hector Velasquez and how Hector, started in the motorcycle world. Race mechanics, that sort of stuff. But they've never ground a reel. They don't, they learn because they're those kind of people in there and they have minds that work that way. I'm fortunate that I'm slightly mechanical. But what about some of you who don't know the difference between a 9/16 and a 9mm wrench? I'm worried about that, man. I'm worried about that. I mean, at the minimum, you should be able to set up a reel. What do you do when the mechanic's on vacation? What do you do if the guy's sick? What if he gets COVID? I remember a superintendent talked to me recently and he said, I was doing great till my mechanic got COVID. And then we had to become mechanics, my whole team, right? All of us trying to do the work that this one guy did. And I'm like, okay, that's funny. But I've been there. I know what it looks like, right? My mechanic at one of my places was a very, very avid fly fisherman. And I love that about the guy because we had something in common and something to talk about. But, he wanted to go fly fishing when? Spring, summer, and fall. And we worked it out, right? So because the guy deserves time off. He gets to go. But damn, those weeks where he was away, I don't know why that thing won't start. Let's figure it out, Hard. So here we go again. What are you an expert in? Are you an expert with can you read a wiring diagram? Do you understand the electronic brains of the newer equipment that's coming out? How about the diesel, and all that sort of stuff? All the, what is it? The Series 4 or whatever it is, the crazy rules that are going on with, with air quality and what's going on with the diesel engine. I mean, are you on top of all that? I read the equipment managers on Twitter and some of these guys are wizards, man. They're wizards. They're doing great stuff. And so I think, there wasn't that class. Okay. So here I'm looking back at my education, right? I didn't have psychology or human resource management or labor law or any of that sort of stuff in my quiver. I had one small engines class and it was the dumbest thing ever. The guy who taught the class was a moron and I'm sorry, but it was just stupid. And I had taken high school auto shop and stuff like that. And the guy was just, he was a goon, right? But I needed the class for my degree. So I had to deal with it, Here's a small engine. Here's with a carburetor. It has a piston. This is nothing like this. This thing was built in 1945, man. And that was just on the cusp of things becoming electronic, everything becoming electronic. See where I'm getting at? The world doesn't need another turfgrass expert. The world needs you, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Wannabe in the business, and I'm speaking to Miss and Mr. Excuse me. Let me get that straight. Thank you very much. Mo Robinson will write me and get me sorted out about this, and I'll keep learning because I'm fascinated by what's going on with women in turfgrass right now. Fascinated. But let me tell you something, man. None of you, gender has nothing to do with the fact that this business needs people to be experts in so many different things. You've got to wear so many different hats. And I'm sorry, but our educational system isn't working for that. And there's a lot of burden being placed on superintendents. And this is where we go, well, there's all this continuing education. And Dave, don't you go speak at meetings all over? And yes, I'm fully and completely dedicated to education. I'm fortunate to sit with a great group of people on the education committee for the Rocky Mountain Superintendents Association right now, and I've dedicated a lot of volunteer time to education. You know, I get that, but it's not enough, man. A 30-minute talk, a 45-minute talk, and a 2-hour workshop or whatever about some topic, pick a topic, is not enough. It is scratching the surface of what needs to be done. The GCSA says, hey, we're all about education. You know, you can go online, and that's great, man. And I think everybody needs to soak up as much of that as possible. I'm glad the GCSA does that. I wish that they would focus a lot more on delivering the vocational aspect of greenkeeping, of sports field keeping as well from the sports turf managers. They may be better at it. I feel that way sometimes. Certainly Bega has a different bend on all that. Years ago in Scotland, when I first had the opportunity to work and do some consulting in Scotland, one of the first people that I've met was Walter Woods. And I've talked about this before. And if you know me, you know that Walter was a huge influence on my life and my career. Yet another mentor, always seeking those mentors. And Walter talked to me. He said, the problem is that all the PhDs and everybody, they forgot that they didn't know about greenkeeping, so they didn't want to teach greenkeeping. None of them had really been greenkeepers, or if they did, they didn't do it for very long, a couple of tournaments, couple of internships or whatever. And he's like, no, I needed people on my staff. And here's a guy who's talking about staffing, the Links Trust golf courses, right? That was Walter's job for a lot of years. He had 99 holes of golf underneath him. And there's more there now. And you're talking about a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of equipment and a whole bunch of stuff to take care of and a whole, you know what I'm getting at? And he's like, hey, I need people that are vocational. So if the schools, and I think he was talking to me specifically like about Elmwood College and stuff, if they want to teach, that's great. We want people to learn, but you can't be telling everybody they're going to be a golf course superintendent. That doesn't work. Can't do that. And he had his own language for that and was very hardcore. And there's no sense me I'm not trying to be Walter. I don't, out of respect for the man, he had a very, very Scottish, very kind of gnarly way. Here, we'll just, gnarly way to talk about that stuff. And it's like, okay, Walter, I get it, man. And he's like, yeah, Dave, and that's what he was trying to do with me. He immediately was trying to suss me out as one of those people who just had had a turfgrass education, but had never done anything. And when he found out that I was a golf course superintendent, when he found out that I had done construction work, when he found out that I grew up on a ranch, all of those things, then things changed with us, right? Because he said, okay, here's somebody who understands. And then when he saw me, one time he said to me, Dave, you're really good with people. And I said, well, I have to be in our business. Don't you have to be? He says, yes, I have to be good with people. I also need to, and he was great about this. This is a great, great story. He was so good about putting his foot down and saying, bullshit, that's not how this is going to go. And he told me some stories about dealing with Links Trust, and the committees and all that sort of stuff. And I look at my time as a consultant where I've been invited to green committee meetings, board meetings, that sort of thing. Maybe there's a project going on. Maybe there's just some stuff that needs to get straightened out. Maybe there's, some staff stuff, whatever is going on. You get that committee member, and they're going to sit and yammer, meow, 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 meow. And they don't know a damn thing. This is our business. This is our world. We have the thing. We have the know-how. And at a certain point, you have to find a way to say, sir, you're full of shit. And you don't know what you're talking about. And this is my world. The problem is that golf course superintendents often will start to kind of give the Turfgrass textbook to people, and they use the big Turfgrass words: agronomy, aerification, blah, 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 compaction. I don't know. I'm just throwing some stuff out, whatever comes off the top of my head. And then, these people's eyes roll back in their heads, right? Because they're doctors, lawyers, butchers, bakers, housemakers. And no, man, they want some straight talk, right? Again, there's no college class for, hey, I got to sit in the board meeting. I hear great things about mock interviews, and I'm thinking somebody told me that they did a mock green committee meeting somewhere. I forget who that was or where that was, but yes for that. Put some people in some situations, even if it's role playing, where you have to be the person who writes the report, right? And comes in and sits down in front of a group of people who really, are dead set on finding what you're doing right, not what you're doing wrong more than you're doing right. They're looking for what you're doing wrong, or they have things that they want to bring up on their list of paper. And it's not all about, hey, you're doing so great and the birds sing and the flowers grow. It's like, no, what's wrong with the 16th tee? Why is the screen this way? Whatever it is. And how do you get ahead of that communications wise? So this is the last thing I want to get to: communication. Again, communicating is everything. It's everything in your world as a superintendent, as a sports turf manager, even as an assistant. How are you communicating with your staff? How are you letting them know what the standards are? How are you dealing with that stuff? How are you letting things float through the culture? Are you directing, speaking clearly? How's your language ability? If you're at a place where there's a lot of Spanish being spoken, what are you doing? I don't know. Duolingo's on my phone. Babbel, I think, is another one. There's a lot of Spanish to be learned, isn't there? Okay. So, was there Spanish class in college when I went to college? Hell no. I took 1 year of Spanish in high school, and I don't even know. And nobody prepared me for construction site Spanish. This is a whole different world, right? I mean, even when I go vacation in Mexico, half of my Spanish is completely useless. Half of my Spanish is cuss words, and the other half is just like, talking about sand and grass and stuff. I just, it doesn't fit, right? It's just, hey, I just want to order a drink here. So there it is, man. The world does not need a turfgrass expert. Turfgrass on a lot of days is the last worry you have. And by the way, resources for that are everywhere. And you got guys like me, Kevin Hicks, all of these people, right? Whoever it is, pick where you can say, oh, that's an expert, and you can call them up and you can get some talk, right? Or even the super down the road, whatever it may be. There are so many brilliant people in our business. Oh my God, talking about grass is easy. But we got to have those same conversations about people and labor. That's why I love what Tyler Bloom's doing right now. Things that Armin Suni's doing. These people they're in the middle of working in the areas that are great. Golf course architecture. Let's talk about the sport a little bit. Are you versed in the sport? Hey, I've never been a great golfer. I like golf. I love golf. I don't play much anymore, because I'm old and fat, whatever. I got way too little time. I want to hit some balls every once in a while, and that's kind of how it feels to me. I'm just not looking for that round of golf. But the thing is like, I learned pretty quickly when I was starting to work around a bunch of these golf course architects that I better get up to speed, man. And I'm reading Tom Doak's books, and I'm reading Jeff Shackelford, and I'm reading, Brad Klein, and I'm getting, like I'm going to learn architecture and I'm going to have that language because I have to work around these people. I have to have conversations with them. I have to talk to a really good golfer and a smart guy and a study guy like Todd Eckenrode or somebody like that. David Kidd, whose father was one of the greatest greenkeepers in the world. I have to speak to these people somehow, some way. Tom Doak, of course, and all of his staff and all of their staffs and everything. And I don't want to be an idiot, so I've got to get studied. And that's the thing. That's the point. That's what I'm talking about here. The world does not need another turfgrass expert. The world needs you. Here's my finger. You. The world needs you to be a goddamn expert in everything that you do. I'm sorry. That's hard talk, but it's real. It's real, and I want to give you guys real, okay? And I hope you share this around and all that sort of stuff, but this right here, as I bang my desk, this is the straight talk. You want to succeed. Everybody says, hey, how do I succeed? How do I win? How do I get the next job? You know what? Damn it. Be an expert in everything that you do. Learn about it, dig into it, grind into it, and all that sort of stuff. And the last thing that I want to talk about, because this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we've been talking a lot about mental health. You got to be an expert in mental health. You got to be an expert about what ticks in you, what ticks up here, and your people. Psychology. Again, there were no psychology classes. There were no meditation, mindfulness classes, any of those sorts of things when I was in college. And we're barely doing the job. I mean, we're trying, right? I've been speaking about it a lot. GCSA had a good panel. We're trying, right? We're trying to talk about balance, work-life balance, work-life integration, and all that sort of stuff, And you're sitting there saying, Dave, I work a gazillion hours already, and here we're coming into, and you're telling me I got to learn Spanish, and you're telling me I got to learn about, this, that, or the other. Yeah, you do. You do, and you have to do it in a healthy, balanced way, and you also need to learn about your family, and you need to learn about being a parent, and you need to learn about being a father, wife, all those things. Yes, life is about learning. I wish somebody would have explained this shit to me when I was 25. I would be so much more ahead of things. When I was 20 something, I was focused on being the best golf course superintendent I could be, being the smart, knowing the name of every chemical, understanding every fertilizer, getting it all together. And those things are great. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't trade it for the world, let me tell you. But I missed the boat because I shouldn't have been trying to just be a turfgrass expert. See, I should have also been trying to be a human resources expert, a psychology expert, whatever it may be, right? Whatever it took to do the job and just to learn as much as possible. And now there's no excuses. See, back then, we didn't have the internet. You wanted to learn something new, you go to the library, you talk to people, whatever, go to education. Now you guys, there's so much that you have access to. I needed to get a document the other day for California Greens Construction, got into the TGIF, the Turfgrass Information File at Michigan State, and there was just so much stuff was coming at me. And I'm like, I could spend hours here just digging in, man. There's so much, right? You Google search anything and you're going to get the phone book about some of our things. Everybody says, why do you stay on Twitter? And yeah, we argue every once in a while. We have some stuff, but you know why? Because there's so much shit that comes out on there that is so good, and I want to learn. I want to learn even about turfgrass, even though I don't need to be, that's not always what I need to be studying, but I still want to learn, and there's still cool shit going on, and that's why I'm on Twitter. I'm not there to, I hassle people. We talk about politics sometimes, things like that. I get gnarly. But no, the bigger reason, the bigger picture is, hey, this is about learning. This is a resource. This is information coming to me. Okay? The world doesn't need another turfgrass expert. It needs you to dig in and do great stuff and become an expert of everything you touch. That is my message for today. That is my message for today. Let's see. I'm looking here. I'm sorry, I've been ignoring the chat. Snowmaker. Apparently the similarities between skiers and golfers this morning. Said I wish I had mandatory psych courses in high school. I use the one in college every day. Yeah, Matt Crowther. Thank you very much. Way more than the billion math courses I sat through in my life. I know. And I like math. And there's some math I'm glad I learned, you know. The amen coming from Agronomics. Thank you, you guys. I was getting all passionate, and sometimes I forget to slide that window over where I have my notes. So you guys are awesome. Anybody else got anything else to say in the chat? Speak up. And again, you know, I can't believe somebody said to me the other day, I don't want to out myself. Well, then get a fake account. Jesus. Even though I don't believe in that, I never have. But if that's going to keep you from interacting here, well, people will know what I'm talking about anyway, said the super. And I'm like, okay, great. And isn't that part of what's going on in our world? Isn't stuff just that much more out and open? And, I know I feel a lot more free to say what I want. Not that worried about what people think. It's, maybe that's the no fucks given kind of mentality, but I'm kind of there. And it's fine. My life is fine. Anybody else got anything else to say in chat? I love it that you guys are here. Thank you so much. What's next for me? Well, we're gonna keep doing the Saturday thing. I'll be here every Saturday at 7 a.m. Mountain to say something profound or do something funny or whatever we're gonna do. That's good. I stream on Twitch nearly every day. That schedule you can find on my Twitter feed. Yes, I'm doing gaming there, but we talk about everything. And it's fun. People stop by. A lot of young people are stopping by. It's kind of cool. They're just like Grandpa Games. Wow, look at this. He and his bear. My background, which started as kind of a joke, has become a thing. Look, we look the same. That's kind of cool. What else am I working on? I got a few things up my sleeve that I'm not quite ready to pop out yet. Keep up the good work. This is a great source. I'm assuming that's you, Justin from Agronomics. Thank you. And, music, we play whatever we want, and that's fun too. I have to be careful because of the YouTube copyright rules, so I can't play anything that's like super popular. So, I have to play stuff that's approved, that I've paid for. I'm actually paying for music as we do all this. It's not a lot, but I gotta, we're supporting artists the right way. So that's it, man. That's the Turfgrass Zealot project right now. Am I gonna blog post? Am I gonna write anymore? I don't know. I don't know the answer to all that. This is what I'm doing now. And I'm loving it. I really am. I'm having a great time in the time of COVID. Things have kind of turned around. Travel will be coming up. And the last thing that I want to talk to you about is, if you're still watching, please hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. And please hit the bell there that says notifications, so you get notified whenever I come live or when I post anything that's recorded. I'm also looking for episode sponsors for the Turfgrass Zealot project. If you'd like to talk to me about that, it's a very simple program that I've put together, and I'd love to have that conversation with you. Just DM me on Twitter, and Twitter, Turfgrass Zealot. That's it, man. That's all I got for today. That's enough. That's enough talk. Let's talk more dancing. I love you guys. I love our business. I love everything about it. I love everything about everybody that I interact with. Even when you piss me off, I still think it's great. I love our world. I hope you do too. I hope you're excited. The whole thing, the Turfgrass Zealot thing, started when I was talking about my zeal for the business, my zeal for Turfgrass, my zeal for the industry. And so Zealot. Okay. That's where that comes from. And I still, 40 years later, I have zeal. Is it 40? Yeah, it's something like that. I have zeal for this, and I get excited. I get excited talking about grass. I get excited talking about our business. I get excited talking about golf. And I think that's the deal. So, all right. Well, I was just waiting to see if anything more was going to pop up on chat. I was just kind of stalling a little bit. I think not. So I think what we're going to do is call it good for today, and try to just kind of say to you that I'll see you next week. That we have a lot of good stuff in store for you, and that there's nothing but happy in my heart because I appreciate all of you. I love you being here. Please have a fantastic week. I'm Dave Wilber. I'm the Turfgrass Zealot, and I'll see you soon.